Good morning everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm so excited to be making this video. This is a review of the 23mm f2 lens for the Fujifilm system. Is this a must-have lens for most people? Well, with that teaser out of the way, let's get into it. Thank you guys for tuning in, and before I get into it, I would really appreciate it if a lot of you guys hit that subscribe button. And it's weird for me to ask this before I get into the video. Usually I give you some value and then you decide to subscribe, but 80 to 90% of you watching this stuff, watching my videos, are not subscribed at all. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications while you're at it so you know when a new video comes out. Believe me, if you're into travel, if you're into street, and if you're into studio photography, you will not regret it. So with that shameless plug out of the way, let's get into this review. Here it is, the Fuji 23mm f2 lens, one of their Fujicron lenses. My last review was the 16 f2.8, which was the newest addition to this collection. This one has been part of the collection for some time now, and this was the first lens that I bought when I switched over to Fujifilm in 2017. I did a lot of research and it came down to what was gonna be best suited for the type of photography that I enjoy doing. So when you see my reviews, when you see any reviews really, and anyone's talking about the best lens for Fujifilm or for any manufacturer for that matter, it's not true. It really comes down to what's best for you. So let me preface this by, if you're into street, if you're into travel photography, this might be one of the best lenses for you, the type of shooting that you're going to do. If you're into studio work, if you're into landscapes, if you're into architecture, this might fit the bill, but the 23mm f1.4 might be better suited for that. I'm gonna go into more details throughout the video, but that's kind of the gist of it as to why I made the decision. The 23mm f2 lens from Fujifilm is the equivalent of a 35mm focal length on the Fuji system. And at this point, let me tell you, there's gonna be a lot of personal preference here. You hear it all the time. People always recommend that 50mm focal length. Truth be told, I bought into it early on in my career. I just don't know why. I mean, really, a lot of people say it's close to what your eye sees, the nifty 50s, this, that, and the other. But truthfully, depending on the type of style that you're shooting, you might appreciate a wider focal length, just a little bit wider, 35 instead of that 50, to capture more of that environment. And when you're doing things like travel photography, and when you're doing things like street photography, that 35 actually might be more useful for what you're doing, because you can capture a little bit more. You can actually get in tighter to your subject and shoot this 35 like it was a 50mm lens, you know, just get a little bit closer, or you can step back and shoot this like a 24mm lens. And I hope that doesn't sound inflammatory to some people. I know some people might take offense to that. There's no way you can shoot a 35 and get a 50 focal length. Okay, I hear you, fam, I hear you. But let me just say, throughout my experience, using your feet, you can push this wider or tighter depending on your subject matter and really have a little bit more flexibility, which is really cool. Another great thing about the f2 suite of lenses from Fujifilm is that they're weather sealed, they're dust resistant, and they can operate as low as -10°C, which is nice and just gives me peace of mind when I'm in the streets or when I'm shooting in a humid environment around the world. So when you pair this with a weather-resistant body like the XT2 or XT3 or XH1, you're gonna get something that's gonna be able to keep up with you no matter where in the world you are, save for the Antarctic. I mean, if you're in the Antarctic, then, well, there might be a different video altogether. But let me just get back on subject here. If you've been following the channel, if you follow me on Instagram, you know I travel quite often and all over the world. I've had this since my XT2. It's a little over 2 years now, and it hasn't failed me. It has not. It just kept up. It performs like the day I got it. The focusing motor is still reliable. So allow me to add to this pool of anecdotal evidence that this thing works amazingly well and is incredibly durable. I know some of you might be nervous because I don't have the other rear lens cap on this, but it's okay. I'm being very careful because this lens is only 180 grams. When you're out on the streets, when you're traveling, the more weight you can take and shave off of your body, of your kit, the more empowered you are to shoot. Period. Full stop. That's just how it is. When it's light and it just feels like it's a part of your hand, of your arm, it's just an extension of you and not really this mass of bulk of metal and rubber and plastic that you're carrying around, you're gonna be more willing to take this kit with you and take more pictures. This one is significantly smaller than the 23mm F1.4. And depending on how you shoot and what you shoot, that extra f-stop, you're not gonna need it anyway. Here's the interesting thing is sometimes when you're doing these environmental portraits, you'll be tempted to go down to f1.4 or 1.8, whatever it may be, and you might just end up missing a bit of focus, or you might be catching some focus, but not enough to really make that a worthwhile portrait. When you have something like the f2, well, the 2 is as low as you can go, and a lot of times that f2 is still gonna catch enough focus of that face, again, depending on what you're focusing on. But more often than not, you're gonna wanna shoot in that f4 to f5.6 range, and you get amazing sharpness. You're gonna capture fantastic images, whether it comes to street photography, some environmental portraiture, or even landscapes. I have the X-T30 with me, so let me just put it on here. I mean, you have something that is just really portable, just sticks to your hand, and something that feels unobtrusive. And when you have something like this, believe me, you'll want to pick up and shoot more often than not. It's something that you just don't mind throwing in your backpack or your purse or messenger bag or whatever it may be, or just holding it in your hand as you go. Let me get back to the focusing. The stepping motor on this thing keeps up, whether it's for photo or for video, especially when it's paired to the new focusing system on the X-T3, the X-T30, and the soon to be released X Pro 3, I imagine. You have something that just locks in amazingly fast, faster than the 23mm or the 56mm, which I'm recording on right now, or even the 35mm, something that is noticeably faster. If you're in dynamic environments, such as street or travel photography, this is gonna make a big difference. You wanna be able to trust your system, so when you pull your camera up and half press or use the back button focusing, you know it's gonna lock onto what you want it to lock onto and not hunt. And though these newer cameras have improved the focusing, even so that the older lenses work better, that difference between the 1.4 23 and the f2 23 is still noticeable, especially in lower light environments. Watching a lot of other reviewers talk about the 23 f2, and this is not a shot, it's just more of an observation. It seems like they apply certain shooting mechanics and styles to the lens, as opposed to looking at what the lens is made for. So for example, when they say shooting up close and wide open with the 23 f2 led to poor results, I look at this lens and think, well, that's not what it's made for. It's not made to get up close, and it's not made to really be shot wide open. And let me expand on that. So when you shoot wide open with an f2 lens, you can do it. You can absolutely do it, but you're gonna rely on your photography knowledge and skills, and really your ability to compose an image to get a great picture. That's just how it's gonna be. And if you're shooting up close with this thing, well, why do you have this lens anyway? Why not just get something with a tighter focal length? And going back to it, I watch a lot of reviewers and I watch a lot of people talking about a 23 f2 and saying these things, and I'm like, well, that's not what it's made for. You wouldn't buy a Lamborghini Gallardo to go off-roading. I mean, you can. You can totally go off-roading with a Lamborghini Gallardo. And if you have the money to do it, please do so, and in a safe manner so we can watch the video afterwards. But it's not made for that. It's absolutely not made for that. This is something that's made to be portable. This is something that's made to capture that environment that you're in, to tell a bit of a wider story. Something that feels close to what you see as you travel the streets and travel the world. If you plan on shooting up close, if you plan on shooting wide open, you're gonna have to be able to match that with your technical abilities, meaning that the lens isn't gonna be doing you any favors. That's where a 23 f1.4 might come in and help you out, allowing you to get a little bit closer, allowing you to shoot wide open and get a more pleasing image. So when you see these reviews of the 23 f2 saying that it can't shoot wide open or up close, I would take that with a grain of salt and think about how you shoot and what you shoot before you make a decision. It might be worthwhile to test out the lens even to see if it'll suit your shooting style. So how are the images that come out of the 23 f2? Well, I had a bunch that were popping up already, and I'll show you a few more. This lens performs incredibly well, especially in that f4 to f8 range. That's where it really shines. You get the benefits of the ergonomics and portability, and you also get fantastically sharp images that render color really, really well. The fact that this is nearly half the price of the 23-1.4 and you're getting images that look just as good. I mean, I might offend some people, and feel free to let me know in the comments, but here's the thing, shooting with both lenses and testing them both out, I've never had anyone be able to look at these images and tell me which one was shot on the 1.4 or which one was shot on the f2, especially in that f4 to f8 range. You look at them and you just think, wow. I mean, to be able to capture that is fantastic. And let's just go with the fact that maybe you get a marginally better image on a 1.4. Marginally better. If you are pixel peeping, you see that difference, but most people don't see the difference, okay? Let's just go with that. I still give a slight edge to this 23, and maybe more than a slight edge. No. I give more of an edge. I give a full edge to the 23 f2 because of the benefits in the process of capturing the image. Because of the portability, because of the focusing, because of the fact that it's nearly half the price, I give a full edge. No, 2 edges to the 23 f2. At the end of the day, there isn't really bad lenses for a lot of these manufacturers in their lineup. It's very far and few in between. Maybe, the ones that came out really, really early on, but now, manufacturers really do have to hit a home run with any of their lens releases. With the way the market is going, you can't afford to release a bad lens. You're just gonna get eviscerated online. The 23 f2 is a fantastic lens that many of you should consider as even your first lens purchase. The ability for this thing to lock into a subject, the ability for this thing to withstand variable weather conditions, and factoring in the size, weight, and portability of this thing, that it almost empowers you to shoot more because it doesn't weigh you down, literally and figuratively. That's what makes this amazing. And when you can save nearly half those dollars and take that and maybe invest that into another lens or maybe some accessories or into a plane ticket, I mean, that's something that you really need to consider. Depending on when you watch this, prices may vary, but here in Canada, this lens goes for around $500 to $600. The 23 f1.4 goes for a little over $1,000, depending on when you buy it and if there's any sales or anything going on. The idea that you can pick this lens up and a ticket to Portugal, depending on when you go, or a ticket to Vancouver, or a ticket to New York, whatever it may be. The fact that you can do that and really invest in a complete experience, that you now have a fantastic lens and an experience tied to that to capture great images. That's something that often goes unspoken. So often, and myself included, we get caught up in the prestige. What is the best optics you have available? But really, we need to look at what are we trying to capture? How are we trying to capture? What does that process look like? And instead of trying to be these maximizers, really try to be these satisfiers that look at these products objectively and find the best one for what we're trying to do. If you're into street photography, if you're into travel photography, if you want something that's really gonna be a companion, that's gonna be able to capture environmental imagery as you navigate your space, the 23mm f2 might be the lens to get. I cannot recommend it highly enough. It was the first lens I purchased and the one that is still with me here today, has not been sold, has not been traded, and has not broken down. It's something that I carry with me on every single shoot, every single trip. Whether I use it or not, depends on what's happening. but it's something that I seldom leave home without. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you've been a fan of this channel or been watching for a while, you know I've done my top 3 Fuji lenses, my top 3 Fuji lenses for video, my complete Fuji lens lineup. I'm going to go through all of them and review them. As much as I'd like to review every Fuji lens, that might not happen, but if there's a specific review that you guys want to see, let me know in the comments below and I'll add it to my schedule and I'll see if I can get that done as soon as possible. Thank you guys again for watching, and again, before you go, hit that subscribe button and support the channel because it really does make a difference. I can't wait to show you all the other exciting stuff that we have planned for the rest of the year, but until then, I'll see you next time. Thanks again.